Pulling an all-nighter all across Canada. This is The Shift.
And it's Bruce Claggett in for Shane Hewitt this week on The Shift. Along with the regular crew, we have Ryan and Brendan. And you know, when we take a look at topics, anything from doxing to celebrating the best efforts of those that make cyberware, there's nobody better to talk to with more expertise than Hank Fordham. It's time to talk with Hank the Hacker.
System breach.
What just happened?
Someone hacked me!
Oh, there you go. Hank the Hacker, Hank Fordham, it's a pleasure to have you with us. First time we've ever had an opportunity to talk. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Bruce. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, it's our pleasure. And I want to start with this story that came out last week. And you may have heard about this because I'm still trying to wrap my head around a really dangerous situation that had to do with doxing. And I kind of get how doxing works, but I'm not fully there. Just as a reminder, the headline on the whole story is a trans woman, a Twitch streamer, was doxed, arrested at gunpoint by police in London, Ontario. And it goes a little bit like this, some of the background on it. Clara Sorrenti is her real name, okay? Her fear came to life on Saturday morning, what she had always talked about, as armed police knocked on the door asking her to come out as they had a search warrant for her home. Sorrenti, a transgender woman and popular online streamer on Twitch, goes by the name and most widely recognized as Keffals. She had been doxxed, with harassers sending false death threats with her name and addresses to councillors, members of City Council in London, Ontario, leading to Sorrenti being arrested at gunpoint. This whole doxing thing, how did they get the information? How did they even find her address? All of this was supposed to be secret. Hank, what's going on here?
You know, and thank you for asking me, Bruce. It's interesting when I look at cases like these, and I'm sure it is for lawyers and other legal entities as well, because I look back at the case with Andrew Finch in December 2017, and he was actually one of the first victims who passed away as a result of a swatting incident where basically the same thing, but usually what we see more commonly is where someone makes a fake phone call as the victim, and police showed up at the house, same thing, with guns drawn, and they were going to take that person, Andrew Finch, into custody, but they ended up shooting him. And you know, with the doxes, it's alarmingly easy for people to create these. What a dox is kind of a portfolio of your personal information, and to give you kind of an idea of just how creepy or kind of how intrusive some of these doxes, if you will, get, they'll go as far as collecting, you know, your family members' names and addresses, your employment and the contact info for your employment, where you went to school, and in some cases even your criminal history if you have any criminal records or anything like that, and all the way down to your favorite color. I've seen doxes released online before in my investigations with including people's favorite color, and in most cases it was pretty accurate. So it calls into question about the information that we release online and how easily we hand it out online.
Well, in this case, it certainly was one of the most dangerous, extreme examples of what can follow from doxing, a swatting incident, heavily armed officers turning up basically to a fake call. But they had to have information enough to believe that it was credible. And I guess that's where this one comes in. when you are able to somehow get the addresses and all that different information. And the motivation, she had warned about this before. People did not like her and her stances on various things, and she was somewhat fearful that something like this could happen. Indeed, it did, but she was lucky, and she was able to. They were able to sort it out, and she certainly wasn't shot. But as you said, it could have been a lot more dangerous, a lot more extreme. How did they get that information, though? What's going on there? That's the thing that I don't understand. How much expertise, I guess, is needed to actually find out about a person that you want to dox?
If you asked me this question maybe 5 years ago, maybe even 10, I would have told you it's a very specialized process, and it takes a specific skill set to be able to get some of this information. But now, in the age of information being so abundant and so easily available, it's alarming what even our smart devices give out without us realizing. So a good example of that would be if you have a habit of, let's say you log into your home's Wi-Fi network, and you've got it so your phone automatically remembers that password. And every time you come back home, your phone automatically connects to that Wi-Fi network. Then anywhere you go, your phone is constantly broadcasting saying, hey, is Hank the Hacker's home Wi-Fi around? And if someone nefarious is able to pick up that broadcast, they can use tools like one really easy one that's used actually for commercial purposes is Wiggle, and it allows people to just search a map of Wi-Fi networks, and even mine is on there. Everyone's Wi-Fi network eventually lands on there. So it's, for that one, it would be good to maybe not remember networks on your phone and to name your
Wow.
network something random. But the information is gathered in a few different ways. There's so many services now that make it not only affordable or cheap, but they make it easy and trainable for someone to go and approach running, an open source intelligence scan or an
Oh,
OSINT
hang
scan.
on here. You say services available. So is there a legitimate side to this where you can actually get software that will do it, and you end up, or somebody could end up using it for nefarious reasons?
I think immediately back to my history in cybersecurity and working alongside law enforcement and other legal entities with running online investigations. And a lot of the tools that we used there are freely available online. And there's even one called Trace Labs machine, and it's built in a community that it basically crowdsources finding missing people around the world. So it brings together a bunch of hackers and journalists and just geeks or nerds in general, and they kind of work together to find missing people. But when I speak about these things, my mind immediately jumps to services like Dehashed or Have I Been Pwned, where the intent in the service is good. Have I Been Pwned is a service where you go on, you put your email address in, and it tells you if you've had your password leaked anywhere. But Dehashed, it's the same service, but it sells people the ability to see these passwords in plain text. So if I just so much as know your email address, I can go look it up on Dehashed and see if there's any passwords that have been leaked.
Well, we're talking with Hank Fordham, Hank the Hacker, independent cybersecurity researcher and expert on these type of things. I mean, everything that you're saying to me right now, I find disturbing, frightening, and I'm starting to wonder if, just who's been tracking me. Is there any way that we can know if people have this information or are seeking it out, or are we just kind of left unknowing until something happens?
For some pieces of information, it might be a little bit like, there might be some hints that it's been released. Like, um, one of the biggest things, maybe I'm leaking a bit of secret sauce here, but one of the biggest things that I tried to avoid in my investigations online was, making a password reset request or something to see a partial phone number or partial email. And it might sound silly, but that's one of the biggest indicators that someone might be trying to mine some information from you, is that you're getting these random password resets. And on top of that, it's important to, obviously have a strong password and enable things like two-factor authentication. But again, I circle back to being cautious about what you post online, regardless of where it might be or what the purpose might be. I've done training courses before where students would pick a volunteer out of the class, and one of the best demonstrations I had was a student who went on social media, and they took photos of them in front of their house, and that address from that house was involved in a data breach, and we had passwords. And so it's like you can very quickly take even one piece of information, and there's people that specialize this both on the good side and the bad side, and they can kind of form that into a whole profile, if you will.
That's still so disturbing, and I wonder if there are other ways to actually prevent it. You mentioned the passwords and changing passwords and Wi-Fi names and not going for the usual. But I mean, when it comes down to somebody like me, and I'm thinking of how many times I have to change a password and how can I remember all my passwords, and oh, it's just a nightmare. Is there some sort of balance between being safe and secure and still having a password you can remember, or do you just have to use separate passwords for everything? How does that work?
I'm so happy you asked me that. I call that the ratio between convenience over security. If you're in a corporate environment, obviously that turns into convenience over compliance. But to kind of find a good, safe balance, or a healthy sense of security in that balance with your, convenience and security, is using a password manager. And some people, like especially anyone cybersecurity conscious, probably cringes a little bit when they hear password manager. But a really good one that I've been advocating for and that I use myself is Stash Pass. So it's just called Stash Pass, and instead of like a virtual password list that can get compromised, it stores all of your passwords on a credit card sized like little piece of plastic, basically, like your credit card, that you can put in your wallet. And if you lose the card, your passwords aren't compromised, because you need the card and your phone with the application. And so without both of those things, if they get your phone and the card and they have your password, then might be too late then. But yeah, I think that's definitely something to put you at the advantage with convenience versus security.
Those and your fellow cybersecurity researchers, those like you, are always just trying to stay one step ahead when you're working on the ethical side of hacking, aren't you?
Oh, it's a cat and mouse game all the time.
It's funny, and I'm going to get to another side of this, because there must be hackers out there that you look up to. And I'm not saying that they're great people. They may have terrible motivations, but just as someone that knows the technology behind it, you must think, wow, that's just incredible. They really duped the system. Does that exist when you go to the light side, not the dark side?
Yes, absolutely. It exists on both spectrums. And immediately I think of my childhood hero, Kevin Mitnick. I appeared on Dr. Phil with him, and he was on the dark side, so he was hacking phone companies and all this. He even hacked the FBI's phones, and when they were about to arrest him, he left them a box of donuts in the apartment. And but after he got arrested, he got offered a job, and he started up a company called Mitnick Security, and now he runs a global ghost team that runs cybersecurity services, so ethical hacking services. And Kevin Mitnick would definitely be one of the guys I look up to. Kevin Mitnick, Sammy Kamkar, and a few local guys here.
Right, and I know that there are others out there that you don't want to even mention because they're still on the dark side, but you've got to say to yourself, oh, that's really smart. I'm not going to push that. Hey, the other thing that I should mention is the spyware maker. You may have heard about this, Hank. Spyware maker NCO won a cell phone hack of the year. Great honor, wonderful honor for NSO. But NSO, did they turn up? No. Nobody came to pick up the award. Surprised?
I was reading this and I had a huge smile on my face because I'm not surprised, but at the same time I am, because the award show that you're referencing was the Pony Awards, and it's spelled PWNIE, and it's kind of a play on words a silly way of spelling owned. And
it's kind of one of the cool things that the young kids say, pone or pone, got pwned. Yeah.
The award show is fairly well known for handing out pretty controversial, or maybe handing out awards to pretty controversial figures. They've done this a few times in the past, but to hand one out to the NSO group really caught me off guard, and no one was there to pick it up. In fact, the NSO group mentioned afterwards that they didn't even know they got nominated, and when they were made aware that the trophy or the award they were to pick up was like a miniature glass pony, they just kind of said, sweet.
Yeah, of course they did. You know, it's a pleasure. I'm learning more about the world of hacking all the time, and thanks for spending some time with me so I could pick up some knowledge here. Hank Fordham, Hank the Hacker, independent cybersecurity researcher. We'll have you back on the show, right?
Thank you so much for having me. I'll always be here.
Okay, well, take care. When we come back, it's Claggett's Dog and Cat Boot Camp. A check-in on the relationship between Van Gogh.
Thank you.
Also on Twitter at Van Gogh Bad Cat. And Sketch, the Labradoodle puppy of love. This when we come back on The Shift.
We're here for the night owls and the real early risers. This is The Shift.